Hey, this is Corey with Fuel Your Photos, and I saw that it was the marketing week and particularly the SEO day in the Inside the Box group on Facebook, which, if you're not a member, you should definitely go ahead and join. And I wanted to give a tip, and I was thinking about what is the most important thing that I could tell photographers to help them improve their search engine optimization. And as I was thinking about it, I realized that, in my opinion, one of the most important things that you can do is also one of the most common things for photographers to get wrong. And while there are lots of directions I could go on important SEO tips, I thought this would probably be the most important thing that I could share. So today I want to talk to you about titles and meta descriptions. And so we're just going to give a quick overview. I'm going to talk just a little bit about those and give you some ideas on how to start improving your titles and meta descriptions. Okay, so let's talk about titles and meta descriptions for a second. What are they and why are they important? So your title and your meta description of your website are incredibly important for search engine optimization because whenever someone searches, I just did a random search for a wedding photographer in a city here. Whenever someone searches for you in search engines or searches for photographers in a search engine, your title and your meta description are really what represents your business here in the search snippet, this search results page. And so this is what helps someone decide whether or not they want to click to visit your website whenever they're doing a search from search engines. Uh, if you don't have a great title and meta description, then it's less likely for someone to click to visit your website. So that's one of the reasons why this is so critical. Also, because the title of your website or the title of any page on your website is intended to be a place for you to tell visitors or search engines or crawlers what is the main point of this page or website. And Google puts a lot of weight into a tag that is meant to tell the main point of the page. It's kind of like if you were reading a book, the title of the book that's on the cover, and you put a lot of value on that title and deciding what that book is going to be about. And the same thing is true for Google. They put a lot of value on the title of your site. Now, a quick note for you, a meta description is not a direct ranking factor. So in other words, any words that you use here, like keywords, wedding photographers in Oklahoma City, for example, using those words in this meta description in and of itself will not help you rank better on Google. However, it could be an indirect ranking factor potentially, because if more people click on your listing because you used the same keyword that they used when they were searching, and it gets bolded and it catches their attention and they think, wow, that's exactly what I was looking for, then if your click-through rate is increasing significantly, there's a good chance that you could be moved up in the search results. So it could be an indirect ranking factor, but don't be over concerned about getting keywords into the meta description, but it is more important to get keywords into your title. Okay, so the other thing to note here is that the title and meta description are often what is displayed on other platforms like Facebook. Whenever you share a link to your site, usually that will use your title and meta description, as well as other social platforms. Okay, so when thinking about titles and meta descriptions, here are some general rules that I want you to follow. All right, so I don't have anything extremely compelling on the screen for you to look at. I'm looking at some of my notes that I have over here. I'll include my notes in the description of this video, by the way. General rules. So for your homepage title, let's see if I can go to one that has this already. So I'm just going to show you on my website how I have this set up. So on your homepage title, you want to have your brand name and then a colon and then a space and then your target keyword, as long as you can get it to fit within the length that you are given. So I'll talk to you about length here in just a second. So homepage formula for titles that's perfect almost every single time is going to be your brand, colon, your keyword. Almost every single time you can follow this for your homepage. For other pages on your site that are supporting pages that are not extremely likely to rank for competitive keywords, you can easily just use the page name, the purpose of the page, and then if you have a keyword to go with that page that makes sense, you should use it, and then maybe put a pipe and then a brand. So let me just give you an example. Let's say, I'm just going to write right here. I'm going to erase this in a second. But if this were a secondary page like the About page, I could just do that. In this case, because I use the brand in this, then I could potentially use a keyword here, but I don't want to use the same keyword that I use in my homepage title. So I could also just do something like About Worry. And I could stay as simple as this. I could potentially, since I have plenty of room here, I could put this. So you want to keep your main pages that are supporting pages, that are informational pages, fairly simple and straightforward so that someone can understand the purpose of that page. You don't want to go overboard on stuffing every single page with keywords, and you don't want to use the same keyword on every single page. It basically negates the value of the keyword. All right, so on your blog post titles, this is almost a different animal completely. I have a really great blog post on the Fuel Your Photos website. If you just go to the blog and look for this how to write creative blog post titles, what should I do when multiple blog posts target the same keyword, I give a lot of examples in here of blog post titles that you could use and kind of how to come up with them. And it's a long article, but I promise it's worth reading. It talks about where you can potentially find the creative words that you want to use. It gives you some headline writing tools and plenty of other inspiration for you to write great titles for your blog posts. Okay, so a couple of other little things here. With your meta description, the key thing, like I said before, it's not a direct ranking factor. So the key thing is that you want to make sure it's compelling to click. So right here, notice I did use an exact keyword. Now, if you're using something like Yoast, it's going to really push you to put a keyword at the beginning of your meta description. That is not critical for SEO. If you want to do that because it makes sense, like in my case, it actually makes sense, even though I could potentially take this out because I already use it here. And there's no reason to duplicate my effort writing it here and here right after each other. But that's how I have it. And then I say, we focus on connections, emotions, and the moments shared between lovers. Click to see real Columbia weddings. So this is something that I'm talking to a particular type of person who is interested in emotional photographs, and moments are important to them, and they are in love, and they want to see real weddings. They want to see more actual weddings because they're looking for inspiration. And they don't want to just see like a random curated portfolio. They want to see real weddings. That's kind of what I was thinking here. So you want to give people a value. What's different about you? Why are you the right photographer for them? And why are you different than the other photographers that they're potentially looking at on that page of search results? All right, so a couple other rules here for you. Don't use all caps. I see a lot of photographers using all caps in their titles. This is not a good idea. I say that, but I should say it cautiously. There are potentially cases where it could be effective in helping you stand out in search results, but I do not recommend it. And I would say that Google could potentially see it as spammy, and in some cases may decide not to show it or to uncapitalize or decapitalize, whatever the word is for that, to change the case for you. But usually I would say don't use all capitalization, but you could potentially capitalize single words to draw attention. Don't go overboard with special characters. I see a lot of photographers who will put all kinds of crazy characters in their titles. You can use a few and you can experiment with this. But again, it's something that Google may filter out if it seems to be spammy or manipulative. And then length is very important. So I'm going to show you a tool here. I'll link to this in the description of this video. This is the one that I happen to use right now. I am hoping to develop a better one in the future. But this is a really good, simple tool where when you put a title in here, as you type, it shows you what it would look like in the search results, and it counts the pixels. So the length is based on a pixel width, and technically it's 600 pixels. Using this particular tool, I've found that it's around 570 whenever it gets cut off. So that's just a little tip for you there. It's usually about 55 to 65 characters. If you go over 65 characters, you're in high risk of getting cut off in the search results. And if your important words are getting cut off, people aren't going to see what you want them to see. Your meta description, same thing, 156 or 157 characters, kind of depending on who you ask, is the good rule of thumb there. Make sure that it doesn't go over and cut off an important part of the phrase that you're using there. Okay, so one last thing here to talk about with titles and meta descriptions as general rules. Do not duplicate your titles, your metas, or use extremely similar patterns. So if you use 50% of it is exactly the same as 20 other titles, that's probably not a good thing. If you have a meta description that is almost exactly the same thing other than a couple of words, that's probably not a good thing. Duplication is not only exact duplication, but it's very similar duplication patterns. Try to make these unique for each page on your site. Okay, so now we're going to talk really quickly about how you find your titles and meta descriptions. So I'm just going to show you a few ways that you can do this. A really simple way is that you can go to Google and you can type site, and your domain, just like I've done here, and it will show you all of the pages that are indexed in Google currently, and that will show you the title and the meta description like this. You can see I have a lot of problems with my tag archives being exact duplicates because I've set up a template in Yoast, and I really should go in there and adjust that a little bit so that they're not quite so similar. This site is one of my older websites that is not perfectly optimized, but I wanted to show it as an example of how you could do a site search like this. The Moz Bar is a great tool that can show you. So I'm just going to pull up this my photography website, and we'll use the Moz Bar right here. And when I turn the Moz Bar on, this is just an extension for Chrome. You can download it in the Chrome extension store. Whenever I click right here on this little page with the magnifying glass, it will show me my page title, my meta description, meta keywords, which you don't need to set, by the way, and H1, H2, and so things like that. It'll even show me the alt text and italic, bold, all that kind of stuff. And there's plenty of other things that the Moz Bar will show me. It's a really powerful tool for inspecting a website. You can also do it manually with the inspect element. You can look for it in here. I'm not going to get into all of that and how you could technically find the title and meta description that way. But the Moz Bar is great because it will also show you if there are duplicate titles or meta descriptions. And that's a really good way to find that. Sometimes you'll be using too many plugins and you'll duplicate them accidentally, and they could be different, and that could be a major problem for search engine optimization. And then another thing you could do is to use Screaming Frog. Now, Screaming Frog is a much more advanced tool. I thought I'd throw it in here too for some of those of you who may want to go a little bit deeper on your site. You can get Screaming Frog for free for up to 500 URLs at a time. You can do it more than once. And for most photography sites, that's a majority of your URLs. In this case, my site had 2,471, so I'm using the paid version of Screaming Frog. But you should be able to get a really good idea of your titles and metas with the free version. If you want to download it, it's desktop software. So here you can see over on the right, I just can click on page titles or meta descriptions, and it will show me all of the pages on my site and the titles and the title length and the pixel width. Same thing for the meta description, pages, meta descriptions, and I have a lot of missing meta descriptions here. That's a big problem. If I were optimizing this site, I would want to go in here and make sure to fill in meta descriptions for all of these pages where they're missing. And it shows me the meta description length and pixel width. So Screaming Frogs are a really powerful tool if you're into things like spreadsheets and being able to see all of your data all at once. Okay, so finally, I'm just going to talk really quickly about how to edit your title and meta description. So if you're on WordPress, I highly recommend using Yoast or All-in-One SEO, or the one that I'm using right now for my other main websites is it's called the SEO Framework. All of them do essentially the same thing. But I'm just going to show you Yoast right here, and I'll have a link in the description to Yoast's tutorial on titles and meta descriptions. But whenever you are in this Yoast editor, so you scroll down below your post, and you have this little snippet editor right here. Click on Edit Snippet. The SEO title is here, and the SEO or the meta description is here, and you can write these. Notice how this was getting cut off in search, and this still tells me that I have room. So this tool is not perfect, but it is a great guide in showing you about how much space you have as far as length goes. And then if you're on Squarespace, well, I'm going to point you to this article, Adding Search Engine and Page Descriptions. I'll link to this in the video description. And notice that it has different templates, and it talks about how each template handles descriptions, because Squarespace technically doesn't have any place to put meta descriptions. It has description and sometimes it has excerpt, but it's going to use that as your meta description by default. Sometimes that will get displayed on the page, and that's what this is showing you. And usually the page title here is what gets used as the page title. However, in the SEO settings, you can change the templates. So it's a little bit complicated how it's all set up, but once you get it set up, you can just edit your titles and meta descriptions right here in title and description on your pages in Squarespace. And on other platforms, I'm just going to tell you that almost every platform will let you edit your titles and meta descriptions. Just look for fields that say title, page titles, meta descriptions, description, excerpt, things like that. Those are usually going to be used as your title and meta description. And then if in doubt, just do a Google search for platform, whichever platform you're using, titles and meta descriptions, and usually you'll find an instruction document there. Also, one more thing for you to check out. I have my SEO guide on the Fuel Your Photos website. And in here, I am going to talk about titles and meta descriptions, some more tips here. You can always join the Fuel Your Photos Facebook group and ask questions about titles and meta descriptions, and someone will be happy to answer those for you. And then I also offer some SEO services. So if you go to the services page on the Fuel Your Photos website, I also have packages where I will write the main titles and meta descriptions for you if you need that done. So hopefully this has been helpful in giving you some ideas on how to improve your titles and meta descriptions. If you have questions, I'd love to hear them. Just leave them in the comments and I will try to get to them right away.